I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch network. Over this past weekend and during Easter, Donald Trump continued to post the most vile statements on his social media platform. Here on Easter Sunday, he posted World War III. Could we just compare for a second Donald Trump's post to President Biden's post? So Donald Trump posts on Easter Sunday, World War III. Here was President Biden's post. To all those gathering in churches and homes around the world, happy Easter and may God bless and keep you. And then the statement on Biden's post says, today we remember Jesus' sacrifice and recommit ourselves to love God with all our hearts and to love our neighbors as ourselves, embracing his call to treat one another with compassion. Just compare and contrast those two posts. Now, going to Donald Trump's next post, he goes, this is all in caps. He goes, happy Easter to all, including those that dream endlessly of destroying our country because they are incapable of dreaming about anything else. Those that are so incompetent they don't realize that having a border and powerful wall is a good thing, and having voter ID, all paper ballots, and same-day voting will quickly end massive voter fraud. And to all those weak and pathetic rhinos, radical left Democrats, socialists, Marxists, and communists who are killing our nation, remember, we will be back, he writes. And okay, then let's compare that to President Biden's message on Easter Sunday. President Biden writes, Jill and I join Christians around the world in celebrating Easter Sunday. We wish you hope, health, joy, and the peace of God, which passes all understanding. Happy Easter, and may God bless and keep you. You compare these messages. As Lee Aronson writes, I don't care what your policy preferences are, who, and I mean who, looks at this and says, yeah, let's give nuclear weapons to the guy on the right, to when you compare and contrast the guy who just wrote all of that in all caps versus President Biden. And here on our MeidasTouch Twitter handle, we just posted the statements side by side. And, you know, when Lee Aronson goes, yeah, I don't care. It's not a matter of policy preferences. Okay. Like, who can look at that all caps deranged statement by Donald Trump and go, yeah, let's give the nuclear weapons to that guy. Let's have that guy make decisions over life and death and health for myself and my family and my loved ones and my neighbors and my community and my country and the world. And by the way, that is a message that we talk about over and over again here on the MeidasTouch network. It's not a matter of like politics. It's a matter of this completely and utterly dangerous and deranged conduct that the modern day MAGA Republican engage in. We're not having conversations, it's not like Republicans are having conversations about issues. They're not talking about tax policy or government's too big or government's too small. They're not talking about all of that. There is no policy. They'll say, we need small government, but then they'll use big government to control the bodies of women. They'll spread lies about COVID, about global pandemics. They sing songs with the J6 choir, with insurrectionists. Not only do they support the insurrection, they're now singing songs with them and telling their cult followers to pledge allegiance to the insurrectionists, not to the flag. I mean, and that's why I say, like, it's not. That should not be a political view. And the Republican Party, though, has been taken over by the MAGA Republicans who are led by a cult leader like this. This is by Republicans Against Trumpism writes, who goes, imagine being a devout Christian and thinking the lunatic all caps guy is the right person to lead our nation. And Brian Tyler Cohen writes, as between the statements of Biden and Trump, guess which one is the leader of the so-called evangelical Christian party. And, I think that's so apropos right there. But Donald Trump's not done. He keeps on going and posting. He goes, "Can you believe that the totally corrupt Biden disinformation administration is now trying to blame, quote, Trump for their incompetent exit from Afghanistan? They are the worst in history. Absolutely terrible people, always blaming someone else for their mistakes and blunders, of which there are many." And remember, every post, every time Donald Trump speaks, it's projection. It is a confession. Literally everything that Donald Trump and MAGA Republicans do is to make excuses for everything, to blame everybody else, to rely on disgusting and despicable conspiracy theories to try to cover up their own conduct. Look, it was Donald Trump and the Trump administration that invited the Taliban to come to the United States. It was the Trump administration that freed 5,000 Taliban terrorists without any preconditions, there wasn't even a deal. It was Donald Trump and Mike Pompeo ordering the then existing Afghan government to do it or else. All of the modern day Taliban leadership are people who were imprisoned, who Donald Trump released, not in any type of trade, not in a deal. It was basically, hey, Vladimir Putin, let's create more instability for America abroad, and let's allow Russia to try to fill in the various vacuums here. So Donald Trump, I'm going to order, when Donald Trump was in office, the release of 5,000 Taliban prisoners. I mean, you got Mike Pompeo taking photographs with Taliban terrorist leaders. How pathetic can you be? It was the Trump administration that set the date for withdrawal and then released all of the Taliban terrorists to go take back over Afghanistan. Frankly, Biden did what you had to do. And I am glad, frankly, that America is out of Afghanistan thanks to the policies of President Biden, who actually completes things. He gets the job done. Whereas, Donald Trump, infrastructure week's happening. It's happening. I'm going to get you infrastructure week. And what does else Donald Trump say? I got a healthcare plan. It's going to be bigger. It's going to be bigger and better than the Obama plan. But just you wait. It's coming. I would have got it to you. If you would have just reelected me, I would have got it to you. Mexico's going to pay for the wall. America's never going to pay for the wall. Mexico's going to pay for the wall, except Steve Bannon, who I'm going to pardon. Steve Bannon, he's going to then create a GoFundMe. Not only is America going to pay for the wall, but my grifter buddies like Steve Bannon, they're going to create GoFundMe accounts and then take the money from people and then hang out on yachts with billionaire Chinese donors who are now under arrest. By the way, because Bannon's benefactor, the Chinese billionaire, has just been arrested a few weeks back. And that's where Bannon was arrested, on the Chinese billionaire's yacht by the feds, and then Trump pardoned him for that. Now Bannon's facing state charges out of the state of New York, and now the feds charge the billionaire benefactor, Chinese billionaire benefactor, for basically grifting and stealing the money of all of these investors to live a lavish lifestyle and to create propaganda media networks and disinformation echo chambers and social media to spread disinformation about Joe Biden and Hunter Biden and so forth and so on. So that's Donald Trump's post there. Then Donald Trump reposts all of these cult followers. And I'm going to, this person he reposts calls Joe Biden, perverted Joe Biden is a treasonous traitor trying to overthrow the United States of America and our Constitution. Trump is reposting that. And then someone writes about that Donald Trump, the man who saved more children from sex trafficking than any other president. Again, it's all this QAnon conspiracy theory nonsense, dangerous QAnon conspiracy theory nonsense. And then Trump's response, true and thank you. That's what he's posting over the weekend on Easter. And then he attacks DeSantis. He reposts this person who goes, at this rate, if DeSantis decides to run, he just wants to sabotage Trump in the general because he knows he has zero shot of winning. And then Trump posts, true, was a Paul Ryan disciple who voted to kill Social Security and decimate Medicare. Then he posts this other meme about Ron DeSantis. And someone posted it, said, who supports Ron DeSantis? The rhinos and the deep state who control him, Ron be gone. Just say no to Ron DeSantis. And they go Club for Growth, the Lincoln Project, George Soros. They just like list names and they got to be anti-Semitic and just add George Soros, right? They're claiming that George Soros is funding Ron DeSantis. And this is why Ron DeSantis, though, is a complete and utter clown and has no spine at all. You got Ron DeSantis, who's up there attacking the Manhattan District Attorney, Alvin Bragg, and using the right-wing anti-Semitic tropes because he's in the MAGA cult, so he has to say it. So he goes, Alvin Bragg is a George Soros-funded prosecutor, even though Alvin Bragg never met George Soros. George Soros never gave any money to Alvin Bragg at all. Like, it's a total utter anti-Semitic conspiracy, but if you're in the right wing, you just got to repeat the big lies over and over and over again. But this is why, people like DeSantis and McCarthy's, these people who have no spine ultimately have no real power. It's like they do all of these things to gain this power, but then when they have the position, they have no power. Why? Because you're in a cult. You're in a cult of Donald Trump. So when Donald Trump says that you're George Soros funded, then all of the cult followers believe that, and you're perpetrating and perpetuating the exact ridiculous George Soros conspiracies. And here it's now being weaponized against you by Donald Trump. And Trump goes, you mean China-loving Club for No Growth and all rhinos, Paul Ryan and Karl Rove? Losers, all. People who can't stand up to him, now you become George Soros funded. That's the slippery slope of authoritarianism that repeats over and over again. First they came for, the prosecutors in a Democratic-led state, and then they come for you. And now you, DeSantis, now Donald Trump says you're George Soros funded, using the anti-Semitic trope against you because you don't stand up to that, because you stand for nothing and fall for absolutely everything. And here's Donald Trump's next post. Someone who calls themselves Yale PhD, who I highly doubt is a Yale PhD, post this weird picture of Donald Trump humping the American flag, and it says best president ever. Like it's a photo of Donald Trump defiling the American flag with the American flag painted on his face, which is also the same as his avatar. And Trump goes, "Thank you, Yale PhD," with that ridiculous photograph right there. So that's how Donald Trump was spending Easter weekend: deranged, vile, disgusting, despicable. And going back to those posts, like Lee Aronson's, who says, I don't care what your policy preference is here. We want to talk about policies and tax policy, and we want to talk about certain types of government programming and government spending and the best way to make sure that all Americans receive health care. We can have debates and discussions on policy, but the MAGA Republicans are not engaged in policy discussions. What they are engaged in is this weird cult behavior and rallying around a very dangerous, malignant narcissist who is a maniac. And America needs to see it. We need to call it out. That's what we do here on the MeidasTouch Network. I'm Ben Meiselas. Thank you for watching. Hit subscribe. We're on our way to 1.5 million subscribers, thanks to your incredible support. So hit subscribe. It's free to subscribe on our YouTube channel, so please hit subscribe. Also, we're not funded by outside investors, and I think that's important that we stay that way. So one of the things we do here is we have our Patreon, and that's how we fund our operation. So you go to patreon.com/MeidasTouch, join one of those memberships if you can, and that's one of the ways we continue to be able to fund this independent media platform with all the great research and contributors and editors and everything that we've got here. So it's patreon.com/MeidasTouch. And then wherever you get your audio podcast, just search MeidasTouch Podcast and make sure you subscribe there as well. It's free. Free to subscribe to the audio podcast. All right, hit subscribe on the YouTube channel. It is free. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'm Ben Meiselas. Have a great day.
Love this video? Then you'll love the MeidasTouch podcast. Listen as my brothers and I break down the latest news and chat with top political leaders on the fastest growing pro-democracy podcast in the world. New episodes drop every Tuesday and Friday. Add the MeidasTouch podcast right now wherever you listen to your podcasts.